Power can be taken, but not given. It is the process of taking which is empowerment in itself. This is Matt Pearce. Welcome back. In continuation of what we were saying, Albert, I want to ask you, making the looking at the broader picture, if you like, in terms of what's the next move? Do you think after we just had this election? It was quite widely reported internationally. I noticed, there was a lot of interest internationally in this particular what was going on, and certainly I was looking at the BBC News website, and it's not often that local politics gets mentioned on the sort of the international news website, but it was quite a big story when the news happened that you were re-elected and so on. But in terms of the sort of the direction and the bigger picture of what should the pan-democratic movement do next? What should the League of Social Democrats do together with them? What do you think should happen, and what will happen? In some ways, will the League of Social Democrats do you feel that you have more freedom to really go in the direction that you guys will want to go, or do you feel you have to be sort of careful to go together with the Civic Party and the Democratic Party?
Well, I think in the near future, I think it will become more complicated, and more the pandemic movement or the new democratic movement, will become more vulnerable because we will be under the attack from all sides. We will have our action in two fronts. One is in Hong Kong. We will continue to pay focus, the attention on the political reform. The government intended to take it to council for a vote on June the 23rd. There will be a major day that we have to mobilize people in Hong Kong who are concerned about the political development, and to surround the Legislative Council to ensure that some pan-democrats will not sell out Hong Kong people's interests and right. And we will continue in Hong Kong of this, what we call the new democratic movement. We want Hong Kong people to continue to be involved, to participate, to be knowledgeable, and to express their views, and also to organize against any the forces which will become detrimental to the Hong Kong people's basic right. The second front that I will start to address is the international arena. I suggested yesterday that the League of Social Democrats will prepare a report with the intention to submit it to the United Nations Human Rights Committee, pointing out that both the Chinese government and also the Hong Kong government are in blatant violation of Hong Kong people's basic political rights. Because for the Chinese government to have this free no policy, that is not forcing all the pro-China force and pro-government force not to run in this election, not to help and not to vote. And also the Hong Kong government use all kind of dirty tactics and means to affect people's voting, such as changing the voting station. 20,000 names have been deleted from the voting register, and also the chief executive and his team indicated that they are not voting. All of this behavior and action, to me, for the international community, is a laughing stock. How can you have the chief executive indicating, not voting in a legitimate election? And what is most worse is that after the election, the Hong Kong government refused to accept the legitimacy and also the mandate of the councillor. I think in any Western democratic country, no government or no political leaders will do that, right? We have the mandate of the people. We have more than 80% of the total vote, right? I have 89.5%. Ellen Leung have 94% of the vote. Raymond Wong have more than 70%. So on the average, we have more than 80% of the vote or those people there who actually vote in any Western democratic state, then it's a landslide victory.
Sure.
But the government said that we have been defeated.
Sure. And for the chief executive, I mean, I thought his timing of when he was actually announcing, because he announced it, I think, late on Friday night. So basically, it would appear in the newspapers on Saturday. Yeah. You know, and it was a sneaky in terms of timing when he did it. Actually, you know, a lot of his supporters or people who want to be in favour with the government will read it on the Saturday in the newspapers, and you know. They might have felt that they shouldn't to go and vote. I know that some old people in parts of the New Territories were afraid to. They thought they'd get in trouble if they went to vote, kind of thing. But the idea that a leader of a civilized country should actually tell people, say basically, I'm not going to vote, it just basically, it's a contradiction for him to then try and say that he's interested in pushing forward real democracy and encouraging people to exercise their civil rights.
Because his declaration is quite clear. It's in line of the Chinese government's instruction. Okay, this is why I want to take this to the United Nations, right? Because according to the Sino-British Joint Declaration and also for the Basic Law, this election is a local election, right? And now you have the Chinese government's direct interference and Hong Kong government's improper influence, of this election.
And I think what's even more interesting is that when you and 4 other electoral members resigned and launched the de facto referendum, there have been lots of criticisms from the government saying that it's a waste of money, a waste of $15 million. But at the end, did they really use $15 million on that? Come on, you look at polling stations. Some of them are really far away, and I don't think there are that many polling stations this time because people have to travel quite a bit in order to go to the polling station. And in terms of promotion, TV ads and all other means in the past that are used in the election, they're not all there. So I was really wondering when the government claimed that they would use more than $10 million for that. It was quite. Is it $100 million? $150 million.
$150 million.
It was really a question mark.
Well, then we will know the actual expenditure later. But even though with the $150 million, for a election, that is the general expenditure amount. If the government believe this type of election is wasting tax money, when you look at the recent appointment of the chief executive, he recently appointed a district councillor to be his assistant. Because of this appointment, there will be a by-election, a district council by-election. Then it's also wasting taxpayers' money, right? There are so many people he can appoint.
Many double standards.
Yeah, and now he appoint, this guy, to be his assistant, working in his office, because since the guy who is working in his office is a public officer, and for a district councillor, you cannot be a public officer at the same time, then this new appointee have to resign from the district council, and that create another by-election. If the government is so serious about the wasting taxpayer money in by-election, then, the chief executive shouldn't do that. So if he thinks, that our Western nation, is wasting taxpayers' money, he create this Western nation by making this appointment.
So it's
pure stupidity.